everyone, my name is Katja and I'm Cat Coloring, and I would like to bid all of my new subscribers a huge welcome to my channel, and all of my old subscribers, I'm so happy that you are here. And today's video is not quite as long as my last video. This is a short but information-packed video about this book, Stjärnfall. Because I have promised a couple of times that I wanted to tell you what coloring pencil brands work best in this book. And I have tested a lot of different coloring pencil brands to see how they work in this book. And let me tell you, the best coloring pencil brand was a huge surprise for me, because I actually thought that it would be another coloring pencil brand, one of the well-known and most used by a lot of colorists all over the world. So this is actually quite exciting. So let's get to it. Okay, so I have tested 13 coloring pencil brands in this. Well, actually 2 are Staedtler, but they are different kinds of Staedtler. And the rest are completely different. So I have tested a lot of different coloring pencil brands in this book. And I will begin with the ones that worked not quite as good in this book as I might have hoped, and perhaps I would have expected. This book actually comes in the English edition here on July 16th. So I know that a lot of people have waited for the English edition to get published, and they want to color in this, and I just have to, yeah. So you can see I have not colored everything. So number 6 on my not so good coloring brand here is Artex. I have to say that Artex don't perform as well in this book on this paper as they do in other coloring books. I really like the Artex pencils, but I just have to say that you can see here, if I bring it up close, that we get sort of a waxy surface when you use the Artex. And the Artex pencils also have really a big trouble covering the tooth of the paper. So you have to press, actually not just layer a lot, but you also have to press a lot to try to get the tooth filled up here. And eventually I actually gave up with these coloring pencils. So I have tried Artex on this page with these sperm whales, but this will be the only page in this book colored with the Artex. Fortunately, they work quite differently in other coloring books, but really not that good on this paper. I think it's too smooth for the Artex, actually. So that was the Artex. Okay, so the next one is the first page here. I have to admit, before we judge this page, that I had an accident because I used my soft pastel chalks before I used the coloring pencils here, and I had an accident because some was on my fingers, and I managed to get this black chalk all over the place, and I have really tried to remove it, but in some places I simply couldn't. So all of the smushing is actually not the coloring pencil, is the soft pastel that I used, the pastel chalks. So this coloring pencil brand is a budget pencil brand. It's the Faber-Castell Color Grip, and it's actually quite well known in Europe, and it's also one of the cheaper coloring pencils. So a lot of people use them, at least in Denmark, for school children. Actually, I had some, and it was actually from when my children were at school. And in the beginning I thought, well, this works out quite well, but if you see this page, it's actually a bit worse than the Artex pencils. It gets a really waxy surface, and I only added, I think it was 1 or 2 layers here, but the surface is still really waxy, and I don't like that. And also, I don't have that many colors with this coloring pencil brand. So there aren't that many colors to choose from. So I wouldn't recommend this, because you get a really waxy surface when you use these coloring pencils. So the 4th worst brand to use here, and this was a bit of a disappointment to me. That was my Koh-i-Noor Polycolor coloring pencils. I love my Koh-i-Noor, but they just don't work quite well on this paper, and it actually is for, I have tested a couple of other oil-based brands, and one of the others, we will get to that in a minute, it also didn't perform quite as well as I'm used to from other coloring books. So you can see we do get some coverage, but you can also see that even though I have layered these pencils, we still can see the white of the paper shining through. It's really difficult for oil-based pencils to really cover this paper. So if you want a lot of highlights and you don't want it to be, popping with color, I think that they might actually work. But for me and the way I color, I'm not satisfied with the result. I'm actually quite disappointed with it. So I will not be using my Koh-i-Noor in this book, only this page. So next up is number 3. And this was a huge disappointment to me. I was actually quite sad when I found out. This page is colored with my Black Widows, and I am also very fond of my Black Widows. I think that they are a wonderful, versatile wax-based pencil. But this page took forever for me to make because I had to layer and layer and layer, and I could go on for about 5 minutes. I had to add so many layers, and I had to add much more pressure than I would really like to get a good enough coverage so that I would be satisfied with the result. And the result is that this surface is also a bit waxy when you want the colors to pop here. So compared to other coloring books where I only need to layer 2 or 3 times and then it's done, usually Hannah Carlson books, this page, well, I'm not quite satisfied with the result, and I will not be using my Black Widows in this book. So number 2, just have to find it, is here, and this was it almost broke my heart. This is the polychromos from Faber-Castell, and a lot of us love the polychromos from Faber-Castell, but I don't think that they work and perform to the best in this book on this paper. It's difficult for the polychromos to cover the tooth of the paper. You have to layer it, and I also think that when you work with them, they don't lay down as easily in this book as they do in other coloring books, like Johanna Basford's, for example. They work so well in her books on that paper that we find in Johanna Basford books. But on this paper, I have really had so much trouble with my polychromos. This page I wanted to show you, but if I show you the last page in this book, because this is also colored with the Faber-Castell polychromos, the Winter Night Sky here. It took forever to cover the paper. Took so much layering, so much work. And you had to press quite hard to get the color properly down on the paper. So this book, I really think it doesn't work for the polychromos, quite to my disappointment. But the worst coloring pencils to use in this book I have found was my Staedtler Design Journey, also a coloring pencil brand that I like. It's a nice budget pencil brand and very good for beginners. But you can see here I managed to get some color down, but it also took forever to get the color down. It's very difficult for the color to somehow bind to the paper. You have to layer it so many times. It almost made my hair gray. It was really, really annoying. So I will not be using my Staedtler Design Journey. And I have actually never experienced the Staedtler Design Journey performing so badly on a paper before. I have used it in many other coloring books and on normal paper, and I have never experienced them performing so badly on a piece of paper like this one in this book. Perhaps the paper in the English version is different, but this is really quite smooth. And they are a wax-based pencil, but they just don't work on this paper. So that was the coloring pencil brands that perform poorly: the polychromos, the Koh-i-Noor, the oil-based pencils, and Artex and Black Widow, Staedtler Design Journey, and the Faber-Castell Color Grip. Now let's look at the pencils that actually work quite well in this book. Okay, and now for the coloring pencil brands that I think work quite well on this paper. And we will again begin with the bottom, if we can say that. And number 7 is this page, and it's colored with the Derwent Inktense. And I am always very careful about using watercolor pencils in my coloring books, because especially in the beginning, before I know how the paper takes it. But if you don't splash a lot of water, I think it will be just fine. I was actually quite surprised. Look at this page. I have not ironed it because it's not necessary. You can clearly see here on the page that the paper has taken the water quite well. And the pencils themselves, it's very easy to apply the Derwent Inktense, and when you apply the water, it just works very, very nicely, easily. I have only added 1 layer. I have other coloring books where it's necessary to add 2 layers. So when it's dry, I add another layer and then the water on top. But it's not actually, it wasn't necessary here. The coverage is so good with only 1 layer of the Derwent Inktense. It quite surprised me. So I will certainly use the Derwent Inktense for other drawings in this book. So that was the Derwent Inktense. I have to find my number 6. My number 6 is, yeah, well, they do work. This is a very low budget pencil brand. It's called Penol or Penel, I don't know how you pronounce it in English, and I don't know where this brand is from. It's pencils that we use for children in Denmark. And I normally don't use them, but I found them in my drawer, and I thought, what the heck, I will just try them out. And they actually perform actually quite good, to my surprise, you know, when you consider that they are a very low budget pencil brand here in Denmark. They are very easy to lay down on the paper, and they actually have a good coverage. I didn't want this to be a popping page. I wanted to make a page where you can still see some of the truth of the paper, where the colors were a bit light. And I have to say, they actually worked quite well. If you layer them more, you can get a better coverage here. I think that they actually perform quite like the Staedtler Ergosoft, and I will come to them in a minute. So this was a nice surprise. I don't think that I will be using the Penel again in my book, but it was a nice surprise to see that they actually worked this well. Well, that was them. And number 5 on the list, here they are, the Staedtler Ergosoft. As I said, there is a even almost uncanny resemblance between the Penel and the Staedtler Ergosoft, and they are actually more expensive than the Penel here in Denmark. So I colored this page, and it got a bit darker than I originally wanted it to, but I didn't quite know how to color these. I don't know if they are tadpoles or what they are. And then I used a glitter gel pen for the star. But they actually lay down very nicely, and you can layer them, and the paper, it's easy to lay down the Staedtler Ergosoft on this paper. So if you are someone who loves the Staedtler Ergosoft and you want to layer and do a lot of highlights and so on, this paper is actually, I would say, ideal for the Staedtler Ergosoft. So that was them. I don't know if I will be using them, but it was a nice surprise to know that they worked actually better on this paper than they do in the Johanna Basford books, I have to say. So number 4, my Arteza pencils. They work very nicely on this paper. This was a lovely surprise. I haven't used them that much, but when I use my Arteza pencils, I really, really like working with them. They lay down beautifully. They are very easy to layer on this page. They have a great coverage, and also some nice colors. Perhaps not as many as the other. I have this set with the 48 triangular pencils, so I don't have that many of my Arteza, because you can't buy them in Denmark, and then I would have to, pay import taxes and duties and all that. So those I got, well, quite a few years ago from Amazon. And they were on sale, and that was I wanted to try them out, but I haven't bought anything else from Arteza. But I really like these pencils, and on this paper, they really work so well. So, number 3, yeah. Oh, this is really, really great. This is my Castle Art 120, and you know, I have been quite rough on them in the past, but I have to say they work so well on this paper. So if you have the Castle Arts 120 and you want to buy this book, well, you are in for a pleasant surprise. They work so well. The paper takes the color very nicely. They are so easy to layer in this book. And the 120 set, it just has so many different colors. So it's a pleasure to work with them in this book. I have to say, I was really surprised in a very good way when I found out. And then I just have to find my number 2. And number 2 is, and here comes the shock for most of us, including me, my Prismacolors. They are not number 1 in this book. I have to be quite honest with you. They work, but the Prismacolors, they work so nicely. I mean, they just layer down, and you can layer and layer and layer in infinity with these pencils, with the nice colors and so on. This was colored with the Prismacolors. So they are very easy to work with on this paper. But there is one coloring pencil brand that is even more easy to work with. And I think that you actually get a little bit better results with. So here it is, the surprise. The Charismacolors, the oil-based pencils from Japan. I made a review of a couple of weeks ago on my channel. They are oil-based. These are not the vintage wax-based Charismacolors from Beryl. These are the Japanese-made Charismacolors oil-based pencils from Japan. And they, unlike other oil-based pencil brands, are very soft. If a Prismacolor is 100% soft, these Charismacolors are between 90 and 95. I would actually say 95% soft. They are that soft. And you can just see here, they are so easy to work with in this book. And I think that the difference between the Charismacolors and the Polychromas and Koh-i-Noor, which were also oil-based pencils and did not perform well, the difference is that these are soft. And the softer the pencils are, the better results you actually get in this book on this paper. And that is why we have the Staedtler Ergosoft, we have the Charismacolors, the Prismacolors, and we also have the Castle Arts Soft Touch set and the Arteza on the top 5 of the coloring pencils that work best in this book, because these pencils are softer than other pencils actually are. So in this book, soft coloring pencils, they simply work the best on this paper. So that was it for today. I hope that this video was very helpful for you if you own this book and you color in it, or if you want to color in this book, this edition or the English edition. Well, I hope that you will like this video and subscribe to my channel. Liking my videos and subscribing really helps my channel to grow. I also hope that you will consider following me on Instagram or Facebook. I post a lot of things there that never reach YouTube. But otherwise, I hope that you will have a very nice day. Take care of yourself. And until I see you next time, happy coloring. Bye.